Ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't too long. Well, actually, it was quite a few decades ago that the British were putting out some really impressive horror movies, and most of them were under the banner of Hammer Films. Hammer Films has semi resurrected, and they've put out a few films over the last couple of years, but their big heyday, for all intents and purposes, is over. Still, they had a very good formula and a nice barn of horror stars, including, of course, uh, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and in the latter years, Vincent Price, that they could always call on for roles in these movies, and that always elevated the quality of the horror film. But just because Hammer Films isn't cranking them out like they used to doesn't mean that the British are not putting out uh, horror films. And tonight's lesson plan is one such horror film. And I just wish that they would somehow have contacted Hammer Films and, I don't know, maybe combined their talents or something. It could have helped considerably. You remember a movie called An American Werewolf in London? And David Naughton was told, stay off the moor. That's tonight's lesson plan. A cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is it. Greetings, salutations, another sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies. And the truth is, not only could the producers of The More have benefited from the talents and creative abilities of the folks from Hammer Studios, but they also could have followed the maxim that sometimes simplicity is best. This is a horror movie that simply tries to tab too many bases at one time. And like preparing a good homemade sauce, you can ruin it by putting too many ingredients inside. Let me tell you what I mean here. This is kind of a nonsensical tale about a serial killer. So we have that. We have a missing boy, a very distraught father, a friend who blames herself and feels responsible for the boy's abduction, and we have an ancient druid cult. And all of that is surrounded by an archaeological dig. And of course, you have the moor, which is a bog type area, complete with quicksand and all its nastiness. It has a bit, it's first off, the movie's way too damn long. This is a 90-minute movie at best, and they've stretched this out to close to over 2 hours, which is not good. And it has a forced ending, which it'll make you cringe, but not in a good way. I will say this, though, the acting in this is a step above normal, and it is the one element that salvages this film. Okay, so here's all the story they try to jam pack into this movie. As a little girl, Claire tries to, well, she does pull Danny, her friend, into running a scam, a prank on the local store. The prank goes terribly wrong, and it results in Danny being taken by a serial killer who is plaguing the neighborhood and stealing children. Once this incident occurs, the movie jumps 25 years into the future. Danny's father, Bill, contacts Claire to help him try to find Danny. Now, Claire has become a podcaster. And as such, Bill is under the impression that if they bring Danny's story to the podcast, it may rejuvenate the search for his boy. After 25 years, Bill's not really expecting to find Danny alive, although at times it seems that way. He basically just wants to find Danny, get him out of the moor, and bring him back home so that he can be buried properly. Bill has really exhausted a lot of different ways to search for Danny over the last 25 years, and now he has resorted to ensnaring a spirit channeler who is Eleanor, and Eleanor's father, Alex, who is a dowser. And he's using both of them to use their talents to also try to pinpoint where Danny might be in this moor. Bringing in these two adds the supernatural element to the story. And as I said before, all of that is wrapped up in this ancient archaeological dig, which is also going on in the moor as well. There's a lot going on here, and at times it works, but here's a look at the moor.
There's a child.
Do you really think Danny's up there on the moor?
She's hiding.
There is something to find here. I know there is.
She's scared. She can't remember.
What can't you remember?
Silent. No voices from your broken dark, old, very old.
This place just feels familiar, like I've been here before.
She can't remember her mummy and daddy.
Ellie, 8, 9, 7.
Where's my son?
You need to help me now, Dad.
Something out here. Something old, terrible.
All she remembers is dark. Can you show me your hiding place?
So during that synopsis of the movie, I forgot to mention who the stars were. Let's do that now. Claire is played by Sofia Laporta. She does a fine job. Bill, Danny's father, is played by David Edward Robertson. He does a good job. Eleanor, the spirit channeler, is played by Elizabeth Dormer Phillips. She's probably the strongest in the cast. Her dad, Alex, is played by Mark Peachy, and Thornley is played by Bernard Hill. They bring Thornley in kind of an interesting way. That's part of the movie that looks like a documentary, and he is the professor that they are interviewing. And Liz is played by Vicky Hackett. She is the butch guide of the how someone becomes a guide on the moor is beyond me, but she's able to spot where the quicksand is and make sure nobody runs into the quicksand and where the earth could be, a little bit tenuous. And she's also the one who spies the eyeless sheep that are roaming around on the moor as well. Okay, let's take a few moments now and look at this film from behind the camera. The movie was directed by Chris Cronin. He has several family members helping him along with this movie, including Sam Cronin, who is the film's cinematographer. Now, a word here. Anybody who follows my reviews on a regular basis knows I absolutely hate found footage movies. But I got to tell you that Sam has done something kind of fun in this movie, in that the majority of the film is shot in narrative form. But as I alluded to earlier, he also does segments that are done in documentary fashion, and he does use some found footage. He blends them all in a way so that the found footage and the documentary footage are interspersed like spice, sorbet for the palate as you're watching their narrative. And in that case, it works. The exception is the ending music for this movie is put together by Nur Perlman. And Nur has done a pretty interesting job in this. The music is, it'll kind of remind you of John Carpenter, what he used to do with his music, just that soft, bassy thing in the background. So it does set a rather eerie tone. Our editor for this film is Powell Prax, and he's too long. He needed to be a lot more judicious in trimming a lot of the scenes and segments in this movie. On the other hand, there are some parts of this movie that are given short shrift that need to be explained. Well, let me give you an example. At one time, we pass the archaeological dig. Just pass it by, and it's mentioned that it's going on. Okay. In another scene, we see Claire looking out, and there's Bill down at the dig site talking to the archaeologists involved in the dig. And she sees this from afar. That's it. It's just a shot where we see Bill talking to these people. Then suddenly, toward the film's climax, we have a giant diatribe on what the conversation was about and why Bill has taken on these actions and these reactions that heretofore we were going, what the hell is this guy doing? I see, if we'd been given a little bit of a hint of that other scene, it might have played a little bit better, I think. Boy, I got to tell you something. There's another thing that goes on with movies, and that's called the preview screener. Now, what happens in the preview screener, they show the movie to a select audience, and that audience is picked usually to the whims of the studio or the producers. They take the reactions from that studio audience, and they being the studio, treat them as if they're gospel, as if they're law, and will make changes to the movie based on the preview. I'll give you a perfect example that just happened in the theaters, and that is Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Originally, when this movie was made, Mothra was not in this movie. Okay, there was another Titan, a creature that was an insect type creature, and they showed it to the preview audience, and the preview audience, who I assume were a bunch of fanboys, claimed that, oh, we don't like this new insect monster. We'd rather see Mothra. And so they reshot everything, took out the new insect monster, and put in Mothra. If you saw the movie, it hurt. Okay? Pretty sure that's what happened on this one. When the movie came to its natural conclusion, it was a very cerebral horror film. Okay? Put me in mind a lot of Eminence, which I did a few years back and was a Fist of Fury Award winner. Somewhere along the line, a preview audience must have said, it's not scary enough. Or worse, I didn't get the ending. I think that's the one. And as a result, after the movie kind of sort of ends, there is a scene which is totally nonsensical. It's shot and found footage, which does not help it. It puts Claire back on the moor with Bill with no explanation as to why she went back to see Bill, because she had left 5 weeks earlier, according to the story, but she's back there with Bill, and somehow Bill has kidnapped her. It just, there's nothing to explain it. Nothing makes any sense. And they put in kind of a poltergeist swimming pool scene that it just doesn't fit at all. You could tell it was added later for whatever reason, and it just plain sucks. Well, now it is that time, if we dare, time to head back to the early Cretaceous period for the nation's first and only prehistoric film critic, Rex.
An eerie musical score helps this endeavor, as does foggy cinematography and the shadows they provide eerie horror. Unnecessary ending segment ruins the endeavor.
As usual, Rex has nailed this one with a little bit of a cleanup on this, a little bit more judicious editing, and certainly a better way of treating the conclusion. This movie, The Moor, could have had a lot better impact than what it currently does, which is now below average for, especially for British horror films. I'll tell you one thing that's not below average, and that is the official Rex Real Grilling Apron. This thing we've been promoting for like the last month or so, but it's massively huge. People are enjoying this immensely, and you can get it at the Rex Real store. Let me pump up the URL for you here. I like it in black. You can get it in white, blue, red, green, whatever color you want. I personally like it in black. In fact, I'm going to put mine on, go out and hit the grill right after I'm done with this review. It's nice cups ready to put on there. They're downstairs marinating now as we speak. It's a nice way to really dress up your outdoor grilling. The official Rex Real store featuring the grilling apron. And let me remind you that if you enjoyed this review and would like to be on the cutting edge, no, the bleeding edge of film reviews, especially these independent films that I do, you want to become a member of Outtakes with Rex Real. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on whatever format you're currently watching, and you will be alerted every time Rex and I post something on that site. It's a good way to stay ahead of what's going on. Now you know where to spend your hard-earned entertainment dollars by doing it. The Moor is pointing what could have been. I should have called Hammer. And now that you have learned what you have learned, here in